Okay, so it's Friday, January 8th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, New York time. Although I don't live in New York, but I do live as far east as I've ever lived in my life. I'm from San Francisco, and I'm happy to hear and happy to read, at least on Twitter, that people are starting to get that we are in one of the most extreme episodes of Revenge of the Nerds. I can't remember how many movies were made out of that concept of the Revenge of the Nerds, but I grew up in San Francisco Bay Area, and one thing that the little bit of the movie that I do recall, one thing that they miss is the amount of power and money that these antisocial nerds actually really do have in real life. In San Francisco, they take away public spaces and privatize them right in front of your eyes, and they do it with hubris, with no apology. They just do it because they can, because they have all the money. I have been to parties. I have had interaction with them, personal interaction, maybe gone out on a couple of dates with some of them. I hung out with, at least on 2 or 3 occasions, the guy who created the Google Reader app. You can follow him on Twitter, actually. But we're talking about a group of people that are doing all the coding and creating all of the messaging that that you're getting on social media. They have a lot of power. People think, they say things like, oh, I got zucked, meaning, Zuckerberg took him down off of Facebook, and I think people have this sort of comical and cartoonish idea of what happens in these offices or in these, they're not even offices, they're like campuses. So, you don't have a Facebook office or a Google office, you have a Facebook campus or a Google campus, and the places where the people work are designed as if they're, college students. That's why San Francisco is often referred to as sort of the island of misfit toys, or, all of the people who work in tech, all the tech bros have like a Peter Pan complex. I mean, you could be a 30-year-old with a couple of roommates making $250,000 a year with excellent benefits and travel all over the world, and you still act like a 15-year-old. So that's the general characteristic of living in San Francisco. I've told the story many times where I'd be sitting in coffee shops wondering if I could afford like that second croissant. Well, just one table over from me, you've got 2 dudes figuring out how to sell off their unicorn app for, $1.7 billion. So there's a real disconnect with the common people in that city. So people think that, when they get taken down off Facebook, that Zuckerberg is wearing a militant uniform, walking up and down the aisles of his, workers and looking over their shoulders and going, okay, take that person down because, they're a dissident, or take that person down. That's actually not what's happening. That's not what's happening at all. The coders and the people that are running this machine they maybe do like 2-3 hours of work a day, and then they play ping pong ball. They have catered lunches. They take long vacations. You know, you and I, if we ever worked in the corporate, I know in the corporate world, I was only allotted a 2-week vacation, which is unheard of in Europe. Like, if you're in the corporate world, I think you get in like Europe, like in Germany, or, you know, in some of these more democratic socialist countries like Sweden or Denmark, you might get like 6 weeks of vacation. But in the United States, your corporate policy is what runs your life, and you get 2 weeks of vacation, except if you work for Facebook or Google or Twitter, then you get long vacations, and you get sabbaticals where you actually can take off for 6 months, do whatever you want, and they still pay you. And you still get a paycheck. So it's not exactly like Revenge of the Nerds, is it? Where these nerds were, you know, taking revenge on the on like the football heroes that were constantly torturing them. That's not what's going on. You know, it's a little bit like that, because they all have these sort of like quirky personalities and Peter Pan complexes and antisocial personalities. But really, they are very spoiled. You know, they can do whatever they want. They can have whatever they want. And they use people in the same way that you might, you know, use something that you need for your life and then throw it away when you're done using it. So we're talking about a serious personality issue that has infiltrated into our social media experience. You know, so your digital twin that's on social media is really picking up on the personality traits and the conflict algorithms that are being coded out by a person who's, you know, got a personality disorder, sociopathic, antisocial. A lot of them, especially the women, are bipolar. So, you know, we're talking about all of these really anti-life or anti-human dysfunctional personality traits that are making their way onto your screen. So if you are someone like me who's totally aware of it and can just kind of like, you know, yeah, I know that even I'm influenced subconsciously. I'm not going to say that I'm so smart that I'm, you know, immune to these kind of algorithm nudges, these personality nudges. So this is part of the crisis that we're dealing with in the Fourth Industrial Revolution, where they're creating our digital twins. And as long as your digital twin toes the party line, then what you receive in your real life will be a reward, as long as your digital twin plays ball. But if your digital twin reflects your true personality and your true feelings, then you'll get taken down, because it won't fit the algorithm. So, you know, like I said, these people are creating scenarios. They're having team meetings over shooting pool. Like, they have pool tables and ping pong tables and workout facilities and catered lunches and dining halls. It's like being in a campus, like at college. That's what your Facebook and Google and Twitter campuses look like. And when Twitter bought the building in downtown San Francisco that was once sort of a merchandise building, it was where all of the showrooms for different furniture would take place. You know, you've seen them, where you go in and there's different displays for different types of furniture, and you walk through each room, or you walk through the big display area, and you decide, you know, how you want your office or your home, you know, decorated. Well, all of that's cleared out, and Twitter has taken it over. And what they did is they built a skyway for their staff, so that the people who work at Twitter, they don't have to their feet never have to touch the dirty ground on Market Street. So they will ride their, expensive bicycles into the private Twitter garage, take the elevator up to their office, take the Skyway when they want to go to, another part of the campus, and take the elevator down to the wine bar that's at the bottom of the building of Twitter, and the gourmet grocery store that's also at the bottom of Twitter, at the Twitter building. And this is right downtown. This would be like, if you're in downtown Manhattan, or if you're in downtown Chicago or downtown Pittsburgh, this is like right downtown. Now, with the Fourth Industrial Revolution and the Great Reset, all of these people who enjoyed, their campuses are now working from home. But they're still getting their big, lofty paychecks, and they're still writing the code and the algorithms, because this is a corporate coup, which took place, many, many months ago. I would say that even beyond that, we're talking about neoliberalism, which goes, which really, in my opinion, from my personal perspective, neoliberalism started to show its teeth in the 1990s during the Clinton administration. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, first of all, a couple of different things. If you're having trouble maintaining your presence on social media, you really haven't been zucked. What you've been is just erased because your algorithm doesn't match the coded out messaging that is supposed to be the unanimous call to the party, okay, so to speak. All right, so it's kind of like not personal. It just kind of is. And then the people that are coming up with the ideas and creating different kinds of algorithms, they never really stop coming up with their creative way of undermining, individual voices. The goal is to undermine those individual voices. And so I think what we have is it all sort of came to this, ultimate moment when they decided, when these, antisocial, extremely privileged and spoiled and moronic and immature individuals just took down Donald Trump, the president of the United States. So the message is that we are more powerful than the person that you may have elected into office. So what's happening, in my opinion, and this is just me, again, archiving history with my feelings and my thoughts. I don't have any facts to support my feelings. It's just feelings and thoughts. My feelings and thoughts on this is that there are other politicos, other senators and representatives who are concerned about, the fact that if the president was taken down, then surely they could also be taken down. That's why you have so many people with blue checks and who happen to be politicos coming out and screaming for, the 25th Amendment, which is odd to me because Donald Trump has already conceded. He made his little speech, and Biden is going to be inaugurated on the 20th. So why would you want to start talking about, the 25th Amendment and impeachment and all that when he's leaving anyway? So that's kind of silly. That's all just for dramatics and theater. But this idea that these politicos are concerned about getting taken down is a valid concern, because they just watched it happen to the president of the United States. And of course, all of this was planned. You have to know that all of this was planned. I mean, back a few months ago, Facebook came out with a statement that said we're changing our policy, and everybody freaked out and thought that Facebook was talking about them. No, they were basically saying, we're going to exercise the kind of control that we actually do have. So, the enemy is not China. The enemy is not, outside influencers. the enemy is the guy in the hoodie who's, probably on his way to, the Caribbean right now, or, the girl who's, living in her, really expensive apartment or condo in San Francisco with you know, an extraordinary view of the Golden Gate Bridge, those are the people that you want to like focus on. Those are the people that deserve your ire. They deserve your they deserve to be called out for what they are. They're collaborators, right? So even the people running YouTube and all that. So it's kind of this is pretty much a typical work day. If they work for Facebook or Google, and this was before the Great Reset, this was before the Fourth Industrial Revolution started to actually carve out the next phase of our revolutionary processes that we go through. So we had the first, the second, and the third, and now we're in the fourth industrial revolution. This was before that, when they were still falling out of their apartment at 7 or 8 in the morning, pushing over little old ladies who were waiting for the Muni bus so that they could get on their giant Google bus, which would then take them to the Google campus. So the Google buses were parking in the spaces where the Muni bus, which is the city bus, needed to pick up disabled people and little old ladies and people like me who take the bus everywhere. So these Google buses were taking up space, and you would see all these tech bros and women waiting, and they would all be on their phones, just typing away with their heads buried in their phones. They weren't waiting for the city bus, but they were using the city bus bus stops and the city bus locations to pick up their private buses. And these buses were outfitted with coffee carts and pastries, and they even had a bathroom and Wi-Fi and ergonomically correct seating and temperature controlled. I mean, we're talking, these people went from luxury to luxury to luxury for every second of their life. They don't know anything about what it's like to live in the common world. They don't know anything about anything. That's why they all have, personality problems and things like that. And they're incapable of growing up outside of, say, age 29. I think I think that they cap out, their maturity level caps out at about, 25 to 29. So that's the kind of people that are running this entire thing. And so, but that was before. So now they're all stuck at home and they're coding out the algorithms, and they're having their meetings instead of having their meetings over the coffee bar that's, in their office or in their campus. They're having, Zoom meetings over the internet to talk about how they can further rework algorithms and things like that. So that's kind of what's going on. That's really what's going on. It's just people doing their jobs, and I'm not making excuses for them. But what I am saying is that your energy could be redirected towards these people. I guarantee you probably know some of them. They're probably, if you live in New York City, they're probably, living very close to you. And, their history is that they grew up never really struggling, probably middle class. None of them went to any Ivy League education. They all went to tech schools and did a 2-year program for tech, and then continued their education through Facebook campus or Google campus or things like that. You know what I'm saying? Some of them would leave Google and Facebook and go start their own smaller internet companies, or create an app. So, they don't have like liberal arts degrees or, philosophy degrees or, Russian literature or things like that. They have like, they're all coders. They're all tech backgrounds. They left home, went to school, and immediately transitioned into a six-figure income right away. So their whole entire life has been nothing but sort of, easygoing privilege. As long as they passed their, their coding classes, and they could move on to the next level. So what I guess your takeaway should be is that those people will eventually be outsourced. And I guess what's happening is that the kids, and you can look at this through Lifelong Learning, which is a video essay we did, the kids will be coding for free, like the children. And they will be coding into systems that, if you want to get ahead in your job and you want to make any kind of decent money, then you have to always be at the top of your game. But it's going to cost you. See, unlike the coders of yesterday, that worked in these, posh campuses and everything, the coders of tomorrow or today are going to have to pay for that education. They'll always be in a cycle of debt and a cycle of servitude to the digital systems that are the very digital systems that just took down your president.